Thank you all for coming tonight. My name is Erin Malone. I'm the Director of Corporate Relations for Western Washington University. And I would like to thank Kitsap Bank for sponsoring this event and bringing us all together. Thanks to you. Such great community players. Thanks to all of you for being here. Thank you to Olympic College for partnering with us tonight. I would like to introduce Tony George to you. He is the president and COO of Kitsap Bank, and he is a Western alum. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for coming. As Erin said, my name is Tony George, and I'm the president and chief operating officer at Kitsap Bank. I'm a proud graduate of Western. I won't tell you when, but I just completed my third three-year term on Western's foundation board as well. So I've been tied to the university for some time, and I'm very active in helping get Western established here on the peninsulas in partnership with Olympic College and Peninsula College as well. I'm really happy to be here tonight because when I heard about the opportunity for Western to partner on financial literacy, with one of the most renowned and nationally recognized authorities on investing, I was really excited for the university and for its current and future students. As a fellow Western alum, I'm also thrilled to have such a great representative of Western speaking on behalf of such an important topic. I've been fortunate enough to spend a career in finance myself, and I know firsthand the importance of making sound financial decisions at any stage of life, but really the earlier the better. So I'm honored to be able to introduce Paul Merriman today. Mr. Merriman is a nationally recognized authority on mutual funds, index investing, and asset allocation. After retiring in 2012 from Merriman Wealth Management, which he founded in 1983, Paul created the Merriman Financial Education Foundation, dedicated to providing investors of all ages with free information and tools to make informed decisions in their own best interest and to successfully implement their retirement savings and investment plan. Paul is the author of 8 books, and he writes a regular column for the Dow Jones Company's MarketWatch.com. He also produces multi-award-winning weekly podcast, Sound Investing, named by Money Magazine as one of the best money podcasts. Subscribers to his free weekly newsletter number more than 44,000. He has led more than 1,000 investor workshops and has been a featured guest on national TV shows and many investment-related podcasts. He has addressed almost all local chapters of the American Association of Individual Investors, in addition to numerous student, educator, and investor association programs. His foundation also supports the curriculum development and presentation of an accredited course, Personal Investing 216, at Paul's alma mater, Western Washington University. At his website, paulmerriman.com, he provides an abundance of free books and resources, including recommended mutual fund and best-in-class ETF portfolios. Paul is a recipient of the American Association of Individual Investors' prestigious James Clunan Award for Excellent in Investment Education and received a Distinguished Alumni Award from Western Washington University's School of Economics. In 2024, last year, Western Washington University established the Merriman Financial Literacy Program. The goal of this program is to provide every Western student the most important financial tools to use in reaching their lifetime financial goals. Please join me in welcoming Paul Merriman.
It's pretty simple, really. I just want to help make you rich. I mean, it isn't much more complex than that. The problem is we all define rich in different ways. And I feel rich, not because of the amount of money that I have, but about the ability in my 80s to be out helping other people do better with what they have. And I just am feel so honored to have that opportunity. And when I found out that we had a small group attending tonight, I don't know how many are out there online watching, but I was upset that it was only a few, but I also felt, well, we'll give those few the best that we've got. And then I found out that some teachers got on the pedestal and encouraged their students to come out tonight, for which I am really thankful. because I've got to write somebody a check for $1,000. I am so excited to help somebody turn that $1,000. And the younger you are, the better this $1,000 is going to work. I can almost promise you that. But that to help you do it in the ways that I think the smartest investors in the world would handle that money. So I'll speak until about 6:30. I will take questions until about 7. Then if I don't answer your question, I can't take personal questions about investing. I can't act like an investment advisor. I am a teacher. And as a teacher, I can nudge now and then. But I can't tell you exactly what to do, but I can try to get you headed in the right direction. So just remember, paul@paulmerriman.com. If you have a question, I don't always get to it in the first 24 hours, okay? I'm supposed to be retired. And my wife is back at the room waiting for me to prove it. So anyway, thank you for being here. I have in this book that you all got a free copy. And by the way, this book is available free to everybody on earth as a PDF. So if you went to paulmerriman.com, you could get this book free in a PDF format. Or if you really felt the information in this book was valuable, then you could forward it to other people. And there are 2 other books on our website that are free, that I didn't write, but one each written by directors of our organization. But all 3 of them are designed to try to help you do better over your lifetime. So tonight I want to talk about $12 million decisions guaranteed to change your financial future. Now, I cannot guarantee whether it will be better or worse. Understand that. Ooh. But I will tell you that at each of these 12 important decision points, and I'm going to talk about that moment, that decision you make. And then for that decision to turn out to be worth $1 million over your lifetime, you have to create the impact. I will be long dead. And you will have either taken advantage of that decision and made it work for you, or for some reason, it didn't. And typically the reason that it doesn't is because somebody else comes in and says, I have a better idea. I know how to make you more money. And so while I can say without any question that investing today compared to when I was your age, I graduated from Western in 1966. And when I was a student there, we didn't have index funds. We didn't have target date funds. We didn't have no loan mutual funds, but a few. And the commissions that you would pay to buy a mutual fund, and we'll talk about mutual funds in a few minutes if you don't know what they are, the commissions were 8.5% right off the top into somebody else's pocket. And today, of course, most money goes into mutual funds that do not have a commission. But there is no question, investing has never been more cost effective. It has never been more efficient in terms of diversification. And the tax laws have never been, ever been, even close to as advantageous for you as they are now. It's never been this good if you take advantage of it. And I don't mean doing anything unusual, just take advantage of the basic decisions of how to put your money away so that it grows, hopefully without paying any taxes. So all of that is there for you. And the only thing that will make it difficult, if you think it's difficult, is that there are so many people who know how to make money on the internet by telling stories, and stories sell. Facts don't sell. Statistics don't sell. Stories sell. Excitement, a dream. I will make you rich. What a great title to have on a website. And how to attract people to come listen to your message. And so often, the message that you're getting is truly not in your best interest. And the challenge is we don't have anybody that's knee deep in this information to take our hand and walk us through our life. So you have to learn the basics if you're going to put this to work. If you're going to do the right thing, the things that are most likely to work out for you over a lifetime, you're going to have to learn to hold your own hand, and that all is nothing more than a basic education. I teach sixth graders this. It is not complex. I have to use a slightly different language, but they get it. So tonight, I'm going to talk about these 12, and then I'm going to give you, and if you would just move to the next slide, please. And by the way, if you have a way for me to do that from here, I'm happy to do it. Okay. So this is the mission statement of our program at Western. And I'm fighting for every one of you at Western today to make it an absolute requirement that every person who comes through Western will be required to take 30 to 40 hours of financial literacy. You will not find one part of your life almost. I mean, even money works its way into the religious industry. It's everywhere. It certainly is part of our marriages and our relationships. In fact, supposedly money problems is the number one reason that people don't make it. So what we're doing at Western is we're finding ways to try to teach young people how to do the right thing from the first day they come out of the university. So they know what kind of mutual funds to invest in. They know about a 401k. They know about a Roth IRA versus a regular IRA. It's not very difficult. And the reason that it's not just an automatic that everybody do it is because there are a lot of people that think this information is the kind of thing you'd learn in a trade school, not at an academic, because it's the kind of thing that what is there to learn? I mean, there are a handful of things. You learn those handful of things, and what else is there to it? Well, there isn't anything more to it, except that they aren't taking the time to show you how simple the decision-making is. And you, as a student, are always more appreciative and willing to sit and listen when it's the teacher who is there teaching you. I've taught a lot of classes at Western, and it always appears like nobody's really watching. I'm not even sure they're awake. And then they write me emails that prove to me they were awake. They just don't want to let me know. I one time spoke to the FBI at a national conference. And it was the worst presentation I ever made because they sat for 1 hour and did not change their expression. They are taught to be the way we think they're taught to be. Anyway, let's move on to the next one, please. I am not an investment advisor. Tonight is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Next one, please. This is one of the smartest people in the financial industry, Warren Buffett. He's in his 90s. You cannot buy his track record. This is one of the things, this may seem like an obvious statement, but one of the things a lot of us don't understand is the great returns that somebody might have gotten in the past cannot be purchased. All we can do is somehow hope the future will be something like the past. And so Warren Buffett had this great track record. But a lot of that great track record was made when he had leverage. He was using borrowed money, and he was buying very small companies that worked out. And so a lot of his track record was not even done the way that you and I would be able to do it. But it doesn't keep us from feeling that this guy knows a lot about investing, and he does. And he says, you only have to do a very few things right as long as you don't do too many things wrong. And he's right, by the way. This is not just about investing. This was actually a comment made about life. And it turns out, I mean, my mother, what she just beat me up with, be nice to everybody, be nice to everybody. You don't know where you're going to run into these people later in everybody. That included people that I didn't like, I was supposed to be nice to. And it was a very simple rule that I tried to maintain. And I really believe that it worked. As long as you don't do too many things wrong. So I want to show you some right things here tonight, but I'm also going to sprinkle a few comments about the wrong thing, because I think it's important to understand things that could lead you down the path that will make you less money than you deserve. Next one, please. A lot of people try to start learning about investing. And by the way, I don't know whether a PDF was distributed, but I hope that a PDF will be distributed if that is possible, or put on a site so that they can get it, because you may want to, some of you may want to see these numbers a little more closely, okay? I don't want to start in the process of understanding how to be a successful investor with how to invest. Or what is investing? What is a stock? What is a bond? I believe that the best way to learn about investing as a successful lifetime investor is to follow the math. It's the only thing that is guaranteed. I can guarantee the math will be the same in the future as it is right now. I can't guarantee that the investments will give you the same return as they have for the last 97 years. I will show you 10% that's been made on the S&P 500 for the last 97 years. How many would like to have a 10% return for the rest of their life? It's an amazing return. You double your money every 7 years approximately. Now, what you also should know is that when we look at 40-year periods, that the worst one was an 8.9% compound rate of return. I was talking with a young fellow here earlier who made the comment that one of the things he didn't like about investing is that you can lose money. And I told him, I guarantee if you follow my advice, you will lose money at some period along the way. But when we look at the very long term and we see the worst 40 years that ever happened was a gain of almost 9%. All right, it wasn't 10, but the best was 12.5. That is evidence to me that makes me feel like it's worth going for the big return. That 10%, by the way, one person in this room is going to go for 12. I can almost guarantee it because I have a whole bunch of that in my own portfolio. And I will show you why before I leave. Following the math, though, means that if we go to the next slide, I can start here with, do I have a pointer?
Not to my knowledge.
Oh, okay.
No, no.
I do have a pointer. I just want you to see here, this is a box of the output of some mathematics. We start with scenario 1 and scenario 2 at the top. In 1, the person makes 8% a year during the period that they're putting money aside to retirement, the accumulation period, doing those Roth 401ks or the Roth IRAs or the regular, putting money away on a monthly basis, and you save $6,000 a year for 40 years. So you start investing at age 25, and at age 40, at age 65, you retire. Now, I happen to know what would happen if you got 8%. By the way, before you leave here, I'm going to show you what I think is the most guaranteed. Now, it isn't guaranteed, but likely, ever so likely, gets you an 8% compound rate of return at a really, I'll say, relatively low risk. But during that 40 years of accumulation at 8%, the $240,000 would have grown to be worth, at age 65, $1.7 million. Now, at that point, you retire. And you start taking out 4% a year to live on. And so if you took out 4% a year to live on, and instead of making 8%, you made 6% in retirement, because when you go into retirement, you take less risk, you add some bonds, we'll talk about that in a second, you add some bonds to the portfolio so they don't go up and down so much. You moderate the volatility. Take less risk. I'm 82 years old almost, and my wife and I, we are 50% stocks and 50% bonds. That would be terrible for you to do that, because bonds stabilize and almost guarantee lower returns. When we are young and we have time on our side, we do not want to stabilize. We want to capture that higher return. But if made 8% up at 1.7 million from age 65 to 95, 30 years, taking out 4% a year, making the 6%, having that 2% in there to continue to grow, you would not only have taken out $2.8 million, but you also would have left $2.6 million to your children and your charities. Western Washington could be on that list. It's on mine. Okay, what do I know about all that math? I know by putting that $240,000 away that I would have had in distributions and leaving money to other folks, 5.4 million. That is the return on your $240,000. You either take it out and you spend it, or give it away, or you die and you give it away. Okay? Now, what would happen? Here's math. If we just added 0.5%. Now, I've got 12 ways I think you can make more money. There's lots of them that are 0.5% or more. I mean, this is not like, oh my God, where could you possibly find an extra 0.5%? It's easy to see historically where you can get it. And so if I could take that 8 to 8.5 and the 6 to 6.5, invest the same $240,000. Instead of having 1.7 million, I'd have 1.9 million at age 65. Instead of having 2.8 million at the end of your life, you'd have 3.7. Instead of 2.6 withdrawals, you'd have 3.2. Everything goes up, but it doesn't go up by a little bit. The total difference on that $240,000 from getting that 0.5% mathematically is 1.5 million based on $6,000. Now that $6,000 is not a magic number. I teach nurses at Texas A&M. I do a class for them, about a 2.5 hour class. They come out of Texas A&M as nurses and they go to work and they make about $60,000 to $70,000. That's what their starting wage is. And so I figured that 6,000, and we never go up. We never put any more money in than that 6,000. So if you think it's hard to be a millionaire, I just don't believe that it is hard. What is hard is keeping your hands off the money. I mean, that's the hard part. I can't believe what people make. When I graduated from Western, I started at under I think it was $454 a month, $454 a month. That's what I made. Oh. And I felt lucky to make it. And back then, by the way, the average family, this was, I believe, the mean, the average family was about $11,000 a year. Talk about the impact of inflation. Now, my daughter walks out of grad school, my grandson walks out of grad school, and one of them started at 90 and one of them started at 135. I think, what is going on here? Well, for one thing, technology is going on. I mean, that's an interesting story in itself, but also inflation is going on. Because to replace a $40,000 income in 1970, if you had it, takes over $200,000 today, inflation adjusted. So the idea when I came into the business in 1966 and I talked to young people, the one thing young people had a dream about was someday having $1 million. $1 million. And when I talk to young people today, it's not unusual if I ask what's your dream? Tell me how much someday you'd like to have. It's the same $1 million. It's fascinating to me. Nobody has inflation to touch. So that's good. But let me take you to the next slide, because now I'm going to do one little thing that is really, I think, impressive. I'm going to go from 8 to 9 and 6 to 7. So now we've doubled 0.5% to 1% different. I want to go right to the bottom. When it was 0.5%, there was about $1.5 million that you got out of the process total for the extra half. But when you get another half, you don't just double it to 3. You do more than double it, because now you got more money, making more money on more money on more money as it grows, and you end up with a lot more money. Every 0.1%. If I could find it for you and help you add it to the return that you get with your investments, I would do it, because over time, it builds and builds and builds. When I talk to high school kids and we talk about the impact of inflation, I will ask them innocently, quietly, what do you pay for a piece of bubble gum these days? And then they'll tell me, and it's some outrageous price. And I just go berserk. I say, how could it possibly be when I was a child and I loved bubble gum and you got things, surprises in there? I paid a penny. And then we get into a little conversation about inflation. And I say, well, okay, let's just out of curiosity, if you had a 5-cent piece of bubble gum, which is outrageous, expensive, and you had 3% inflation, which is pretty normal. Since 1928, it's more than 3%. What would that 5-cent piece of bubble gum cost in 2,000 years? Well, of course, they have no idea. In fact, I wouldn't have any idea either. But I asked them for numbers. And sometimes we get up to $1 million. The answer is 2.3 trillion billion dollars. And almost guaranteed it's a smaller piece of gum. These numbers and the math of all of this, I think, is fascinating. But now we're counting on the market for so much of this, and it's true. Because I'm going to show you how in one case $100 grew to $1 million. And in another case, $100 grew to about 16 million over 97 years. But it happened, at least on paper. As we look at this one, table number 3, please. Now I want to talk about what you can do. I want you every year to increase the amount you put in there by 3%. Let's call it an inflation adjustment, if you will. And what I want you to see here is that you will have gone from 240,000 to 452,000 just by adding that 3%. As that number gets bigger and bigger, so does that 3% in essence get bigger and bigger. So it means you're going to save over that 40 years, 40 years, you're going to save another $212,000. But you're going to make an extra 3.5 million. That's all. That 200 and some thousand is all attributable to this 3.4 million. That's a big deal. Now, when I say it's a big deal, sometimes people will, I'm not trying to say it's about greed or avarice or piles of money and Scrooge McDuck is diving and all of that. Not that picture at all. But I will tell you, having had a chance to spend a part of my life where I didn't have any money, then having enough, when I was in college, one quarter, I spent $12.50 a month for the room. But it was a half a room. And it was half of a luggage room. In the bottom of an old house, big old house in the university, just off the University of Washington campus. So, I mean, there are things that we can do to help save for the future. And it is nice to be able to give away money. It is absolutely, I mean, there are people here in the room who work with the foundation. All those people who are writing checks to West to try to help all of you in some fashion. It is such a joy. I gave money to somebody I never given money to before this year because of the chaos in our world. And I knew that even though that check I wrote is going to go into an account and it will probably be spent in about 20 seconds. I mean, it's just, it's the way it is. They need tons of money to do what they're doing. But it's good to
do that then. So,
be helped. Anyway, it's not all about greed, but to think that you are in control of whether you pick up that extra 3.5 million. And this doesn't even count some other money that your kids are going to make. I'm going to address the kids in just a second. All right, one more thing you can do. And I want you to do it if you can, and that is in table 4. What I want you to do is to compare what you would have at the end of life between starting that $6,000 a year. One person starts at age 25, the other one starts at age 30. That's the only difference between the bottom line, those first 5 years. And you can see here, the person who started 5 years earlier ended up with 12.4 million. They made the same amount while they were there with their money. It's all math. Over here, they made 7.8. They made 4.6, $4.7 million less because of the 5 years they didn't put money away in the beginning. And I will tell you from everything that I know, I mean, I met a lot of people who said, well, I can't possibly do that. I can't make enough money at what I do for a living. Then I said, well, it sounds to me like you might have to find a second job for 5 years and make that extra money. You can if you want to. I have faced adversity. I came to Western at age 19, married. I mean, that's adversity. I thought my wife was going to go to school. She didn't. She stayed home. That could cause some adversity. Then I thought she was going to go to work. She didn't do that. But we got through and we had a kid while we were here too. I mean, it was wonderful. And the 2 professors I had the next day, that was June 9th, 1966. The 2 professors, one in business law and accounting of some sort. They made me take 2 finals the next day. They did not let me out. Talk about adversity. Anyway. You can do this. You can find ways. If I had a rich grandfather, I would have no problem going to him and say, Grandpa, look, I want to do a $6,000 Roth IRA right now. But I just got out of school. I'm getting started in my life. But let me show you what this $6,000 will become. And I don't want you to give it to me. I'm not looking for any handouts. I would like to do this. I'd like to borrow $6,000 from you. And for the first 5 years, I want to pay you interest. Every year, I'm going to pay you 5% interest on that. And then at the end of the 5 years, I'm going to make, for 10 years, I'm going to pay you on a monthly basis. And I'll get you all paid off in 10 years or in 15 years. And all of us think we're going to live enough time to be paid off. I think that a person could win that. You have to ask, or you have to look to yourself. I started selling Christmas cards when I was 11. I was never afraid of no. It's really hard to say no to an 11-year-old when their mother is out in the car waiting for them. But you can do it. You can find ways to make the extra money to put it away and get it working for you. Because I promise you, there's somebody trying to sell you something that, as far as they're concerned, is way more important than your retirement. Way more important. You have to make it important to you. Next one, please. Oh, this is Mark Twain about getting ahead. It's about taking little steps. It's hard to manage problems one big thing at a time. You figure out the individual things you need to do and take care of them one at a time. Most of the people who are trying to help folks like Dave Ramsey and folks like that, those folks are really focusing on steps. And let me just say, I'm not anti-Dave Ramsey. I really am not. But the reason I don't like Dave Ramsey, no, the reason I am critical of Dave Ramsey is I hate his investment advice. I love his advice to help you get out of debt. So I would look to him for that and look to some other people who I think their advice is better for you and your life. And I'll hear from him. Somebody will tell him I said that. Okay, go ahead, please. All right, here we are. You don't have much money. You might not even have the $100 a month. You might not have $100 a month. So divide it by 2 and make it $50. You don't have $50 a month. Do $25 a month. This is easy to be able to adjust these numbers, but I just want to show, even starting with little amounts of money, if you started and for 45 years here, 45 years, you put away $100 a month, you wouldn't up the ante, just that'd be $54,000. You'd have 100, this is at 5%, you'd have almost 200,000 at retirement. You would get distribution for 30 years of almost 300,000. And you would pass along at your death, and I'm hoping this is going into a Roth IRA, because that money compounds tax-free, and you pay, when it's paid out, it's tax-free. And then after you die, it is still tax-free for 10 years to your heirs. So they get 10 years worth of contributions out. Let's say they do that. And then before the 10 years is up, they take the rest of the money, $186,000, absolutely tax-free, for a total benefit of $578,000 from that $100 a month, that $54,000. And by the way, that 5% is real. When I say it's real, that's the return historically of bonds. I'll get to bonds in just a second. If you got 8% instead of 5%, all of these things get bigger, 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 bigger. And instead of 578,000, it's 3.2 million. $100 a month. Next slide, please. Now we're going up to 10%, the S&P 500. $54,000 invested, the total amount of what it grew to for you, for your kids, before you, your retirement, your kids after you have passed and they're using it to live on, then all the money they take out, the total is over $10.6 million. And finally, if that one person who decides to go for the 12% compound rate of return with this small amount, in fact, you may do this over 45 years. You may be putting away $1,000 a month instead of $100, but you put $100 into this strategy. You put $900 into the target date fund that I'll talk about later, much more conservative. But if you get 12%, it's $37 million. From that same $54,000 starting now, $100 a month, no adjustment for inflation. It's the math. And I think that's probably enough math. Let's look at the next slide. Oh, no, not again. Here we got more. This is the $1,000 that somebody's going to win here tonight. Now, we did this at Western a few months back. I guess it was in May. And it was so rewarding for me because he was ready to put money into the Roth IRA and I was ready to help him do it. And we had so much fun making the decision how to do it, that it would be best for him. But I just want you to see that just $1,000 investment at 12% turns out just once to be 3.3,814,000 and 200,000 for these different levels of returns. All right, now let's get rid of the math and go to the next. So the book, I hope you will read it. It is really easy to read. We have had, if you go to Amazon and you look at the book, and people buy the book too, if we make any money, it goes to the foundation. But the written reviews that we get there, some of those are from high school kids. And they are people that you can tell what they wrote. They did read the book and they did get it. So I'm hoping that you will get it, but let me see if I can motivate you here tonight to take the time to dig a little deeper. Go right ahead, please. Okay, I'm going to hit 12 of them. Now, is there anybody that wouldn't understand that it will be $1 million difference if one person doesn't save and the other person does save, and one person doesn't make a penny for 60 years and the other person makes a whole bunch of pennies? You can see how that could be millions of dollars of difference. Okay? So we know that that one fork in the road, that one fork in the road is absolutely huge, and the outcome is so obvious if you don't do it. Let's go to number 2. Let's see if we have one more thing here. Maybe, somebody asked me to talk about budgeting. I don't talk about budgeting because budgeting really is something probably better understood if you can find books on budgeting. I am a believer, I'll talk about it later, but I'm a huge believer in the AI as being a really great teacher on these kinds of matters. Simple things like that. If you ask them for 100 ideas to help me spend less, or take me through the steps to building a budget. What do I need to do? And of course, there are lots of websites that are built to do this kind of thing. But here is what the advice from Warren Buffett that I think is so unbelievably cool. Don't save what's left over after spending, but spend what's left over after saving. It is an approach that not only do we know that it is theoretically guaranteed to serve you better than waiting to see if you have any money left over at the end of the month to save. Because there are so many people who want to make sure that you don't. It's their job. On the other hand, if you get it set aside, then everything changes because you live with what you got left over for the month, and you learn to adjust to that. And here's the evidence that's overwhelming. In the old days of the 401k, in the old days, when you came to a company, most companies, they would ask you, do you want to start having us put some percentage of your earnings into a 401k plan to save for the future? Most people said, I just worked to get out of college. I've been waiting to spend and start living it like an adult instead of a student. And I don't really think I want to do that. I think I want to spend the money I'm making now. I've got plenty of time to do that saving later. So about, I think it was 23% of people who were asked, do you want to, would do it. Then somebody from the psychology department of some university probably said, why don't we ask them different question or give them a different way to address this. And they started telling people, we are going to put money aside for your retirement unless you decide you want to opt out. So they had to say, no, I don't want you to save the money for me. I want you to give it all to me. Over 80% of the workers put the money away instead of 23%. And the only difference was they had to opt out. And they learned from day one as a worker bee for that company to live on what they got after they took the money out. Which is it's the same thing he's saying. Don't try to save what's left over. Spend what's left over after you've done the saving. You are the priority. That's the part that is, it may even be some of us don't have the right mindset and the idea of that I am a priority. Who am I? I'm nothing. No, you are everything about this particular topic, regardless of whatever else you are in your life. According to my stepfather, I was nothing. I was terrible. One time in my whole life, he said something nice to me, literally one time. And I'll never forget it. But I don't forget the other times either. But the bottom line is I didn't feel so good about myself for a long time in my life. And this means if you do this, you're taking care of yourself, all of a sudden you are number one. And that isn't always easy for us to really figure out. I want you to be number one. Let's look at the next slide. One of these days you're going to have a kid. Some of you. I have 4 of them. And every time we have a child and a grandchild, we have those 2. Money is set aside immediately not for their education. That's for their parents to take care of. I want to take care of their retirement. I want them to live a good life when they get to retirement. Who knows what they're going to do for a living or whether they'll be doing something that pays them big rewards or not. We never know. But I just want you to see this. $1 a day from the day a child is born at 10% to age 65 is almost $2 million. If you wait until they're 10 years old and you don't do those first 10 years, $365 a year, $3,650 over 10 years. If you don't put that $3,650 in, you lose about $1.2 million. And if you wait till they're 21, and a lot of people do, they might say, well, we'll help you with your IRA when you get to older. If you wait till they're 21 to start putting away that money for all those years, it's $262,000. Again, I know it's back to that math stuff, but I also, because many of you will be parents, and $1 a day is not impossible. Next slide, please. Stocks versus bonds. Stocks means you own part of a company. You own part of NVIDIA, you own part of Microsoft, you own part of Kodak, whatever it is, you own a part of it. Sometimes you may own part of Eastern Airlines. They no longer exist. Or Enron, they no longer exist. There are companies that failed. As a matter of fact, almost half the companies that ever went public failed or got sold, and they never made any money. It is the other half that helped make that famous 10% compound rate of return. But when you buy stocks, they are very, very risky, one at a time and one day at a time. Volatility all over the place. October 19th, 1987, the stock market in one day went down 22%. One day, the whole stock market, everything went down average 22.5%. And people thought it was the start of a next, not a recession.
Depression.
But a depression. They thought we would not recover from that. So stocks are scary as can be short term. But remember, every one of those companies is just a company with a bunch of people coming to work, making products, selling products, servicing people, cooking for people, whatever they're doing for a living. And they're all trying to succeed. And unfortunately in life, and this is true with each one of it, in this whole room, there are going to be some amazing success stories. And there'll be some where something happened along the way. It could be a health problem. It's just something not anticipated. I never had the idea that I'd be married 4 times. Never. I was a one gal person from age 19 on. Just something happened. Things change. And you can't know. I mean, there's one time I actually left a fraternity and I went to was going to go to the right to go out and eat because I love to go out and eat. And I didn't. I went to the left and I ended up meeting the lady that I married at a street dance about a block away. Just random stuff in life. So some of us have a break. I once had a break. I got on national TV on a show called, I was the weekly guest for Louis Rukeyser. It was a show called Wall Street Week. That was a really big deal to me because my business was teeny tiny. And we had 400 people that weekend called in and wanted to go to work with us as clients, which in our business is just unbelievable. And the reason I got that invite was totally ridiculous, but I did. And it's not, I couldn't say no. And I'm glad they did. But it was random. It was random. They happened to see me in another interview where I was sitting in a Kansas City TV studio, sitting splayed out on a couch somehow. I don't know why that got their attention. Maybe they thought I was a clown. But it did. And it changed my life. And we're all going to go through that, except sometimes it's bad and not good. And so these businesses sometimes have bad days too. And they have worked to get through it. And most of them survive. Stocks are risky for the short term, but bonds, it's the US government, it's the important corporation saying, I promise if you loan us some money, we will pay you back in 30 days. We guarantee it. How much will you pay us? Well, not very much because we guarantee there is no risk. We're only going to use your money for 30 days. And in fact, those bonds, like the US government bonds, have never defaulted. Now, don't think they can't. Because if you're trying to get rid of a Confederate bond, you got a problem. I mean, there are bonds that you cannot cash because there is nobody there to make them, to pay them. But the bond market is huge. It's bigger than the stock market. And so you can loan money to almost any major corporation these days and get a decent return, but not a great return because you're not taking much risk. So when you're investing for the short term, and like my wife and I, we need money to live on. Some of that money's got to come out and pay the bills. So we have money in bonds because you can't count on stocks always being there for you one day at a time. So right now we have enough in bonds that we could go 10 years without having to use the stocks. Use the stocks in 10 years. It's not that it couldn't still be losing money at the end of 10 years, but the odds are very, very, very low, at least based on history. Having said that, the S&P 500 that got that famous 10% a year for 97 years, from 2000 to 2009, it lost 1% a year. 1% a year for 10 years. Now, it didn't do that all in 1 year. I mean, not 1%. It actually was down 50% in 2 periods during that 10-year period. But the return at the end of the entire 10 years was a loss of 1% a year, about a 10% total loss. So it can happen. The good news is, what I recommended to my clients is diversification. The S&P 500 are these big, large companies. And what I recommended was part of the portfolio should be in stocks that are smaller or not as popular, not as well known. And at the end of that 10 years, the compound rate of return was over 7% a year. It was a random event. Again, it made me look like a hero. But the previous 10 years, I was a dog. My recommendations produced half of what the S&P 500 got. So it's not like anybody has any insight, magic insight. But certainly the idea of broad diversification is something that when you read our work, you're going to find we want you to find ways to diversify your money over many issues. But so stocks and bonds, high risk, low risk, long-term stocks, short-term bonds, low risk bonds, high risk stocks. Next slide. History, what the past teaches us. Here's where faith comes into this process. It sounds a little strange, but it's my claim that this is a faith-based industry because we cannot know the future. And if we can't know the future, how can we make a decision? Well, one is we can believe what somebody tells us that we should believe and just stay the course no matter what. That's what they tell you, that you should believe that. They too have no control over what the market does. They just know that you are more likely to stay a customer if they say believe and you say I do. But it's faith. It is not knowledge of the future. But what we do have is we have so much knowledge of the past. It is unbelievable. One day at a time. Every public company since 1928. That's a lot of data. And there are people who spend their life studying that data. Let's look at some of that data. And I see that it's 6:30. If I cut us short on questions, please, again, I said it before, hit me, send me a question and to Paul at paulmerriman.com. And I'll get back. In fact, I might even use it on one of my podcasts. We do a podcast every week. We answer questions. In fact, you know what I'll do? I'll do a podcast dedicated only to questions that you send me from this group. Please send me questions. I promise I will never use your name. If you do say something nice about me, what I will do maybe, I might share what you said, but no names. If you say something bad about me, nobody will ever see it. Okay. Here we have history of short-term government bonds, bonds that come due sometimes as few as 30 days, in 30 days. Some bonds, 5 years. Some bonds, 20 to 30 years. The longer the maturity, the more risky, the more volatility day to day. And you can see this. Here's the best year's return, up 40. The worst year, down 26. Shorter term, down 9.4, up 29. Even shorter term, down 0.02, up 14.7. What did $100 become? And this, in essence, is real time. $100 in the short-term instruments, about $2,300. About $9,700 for the 5 year, about $12,000. Now, why do I preach to young kids, young investors, that they should be in stocks for the long term? Because here's the next slide. Here's the S&P 500. That's that 10.2%. for 97 years. $100 grew to 1.2 million. Here, the worst year was a loss of 43, a gain of 54. So instead of 12,000 was the best of those bonds, the very best. The best here, by the way, is a bunch of stocks that are smaller companies that are out of favor. That $100 grew to over $16 million over that 97 years. So that's why I've got some of that in my portfolio. And that's why for my granddaughter, when we gave her money about 3 years ago, we put half of it here in the S&P 500 and half of it here in small cap value. And when she's 18 and she finds out about it, she's going to have 18 years of actual performance. She will see some years S&P 500 is better, some years small cap value is better. Small cap value hopefully will have done better. But when she is 18, not only will she see how she has done year by year with that investment, but she will have a letter from her grandparents and a video from her grandparents telling her why we set this up for her and why we don't want her to spend it until she reaches retirement. And all the dreams we have. We know we're fighting the battle because there are people who are going to crawl across crushed glass to get people to do something with their money. Anyway, next one, please. I just want you to see, I mentioned this earlier, the best 12.5% 40-year return, the worst 8.9. If you look at that small cap value, the best 40-year return was a 19%, the worst was 11.6. Next slide, please. One stock versus all. That's a fork in the road. The problem is any single stock can go out of business. It's hard to believe. When I was your age, there was a saying, as goes General Motors, so goes the country. Because that was a great company that had made so much money for our American investors. But then they were no longer that great company and actually went through a bankruptcy. So it is any stock. Enron was the 7th largest public corporation in the country, 7th largest. And it appeared that they were run by a bunch of people who were they were crooks, it appeared. So here's what we know from studies that like to go back and look at every company every day. Over that period of time since 1928, 96% of all the companies, if you looked at the average return, this includes companies that didn't make it, companies that submerged away, didn't make any money, ones that did make money, they compounded at 3%, the same rate of compounding as the treasury bills, those 30-day riskless transaction. On the other hand, 4%, 1 out of 25 compounded at almost 14%. You put those two groups together and you come up with the 10. So what do you have right now? Anybody name a company that's part of that 1 out of 25? Apple. Amazon. NVIDIA. Alphabet. I mean, the list goes on.
Volunteer.
And I have them in my portfolio. I'm heavily invested. And I'll show you how exactly. You won't be impressed. Yes, please. I have all of our investments are in mutual funds or what are called exchange traded funds. This is probably the second. There are really three kinds of investments that I think are the very best of the best. But the first one was the mutual fund. It came out of 1928 or 29. And what it did, it allowed people to combine their money and give it to professional managers to manage for them, so that even today, if you have $100 invested, you can have the same portfolio as a multimillionaire. Absolutely the same portfolio. It's just that they have millions and you have $100. But the percentages of each one of the companies, the Apples, the Nvidias, all of those companies, and the bad ones too, if you're well diversified, you could have a portfolio. You could literally have four different mutual funds, $25 each, and 4 different funds. Those 4 funds could be doing big companies and small companies and US companies and international companies. They could be doing totally different things. And you'd be totally diversified with each $25 investment. So one should not feel like, oh God, I don't have much money. I won't be treated right. You will be treated right. That's what's so special. Now, there are ways that you can be mistreated, but they're completely liquidity. And next slide. Here's how you can be used and abused. You can be used and abused if somebody tries to convince you that you should invest in a mutual fund that looks just like the S&P 500, and they'll charge you 0.8% a year to own that mutual fund. 0.8%. Now, when I say used and abused, they really are not abusing you. They just aren't telling you that you could go to Vanguard and get that same mutual fund at 0.03%. They could go to Fidelity and basically get it with no expense. But it's not their job to tell you that you can do that. I mean, we do not go to Chrysler thinking they're going to tell us to go to Subaru. That's not their job. Their job is to tell you why Chrysler is the best. And I know nothing about cars, nothing. How to start them, yes, that's about it. And that means I'm an easy sell compared to somebody who really knows something about cars. So that is our job, is to take care of ourselves and make sure we understand that expenses, academics tell us, if there is any one variable that will cause higher rates of return, it is lower rates of expenses. So that you can easily pick up 0.5% just by being in a mutual fund that charges 0.25% rather than a similar fund that charges 0.75%. It's easy. It's like bending over and picking up money off of the ground, but you have to be able to identify the currency. I mean, you have to know what it is you're picking up and you're getting. And maybe you believe that if you pay more for things, you get more. That is an old saying. If I pay a higher price, I'm getting higher quality goods. John Bogle said he was the man who invented the index fund, the second most important investment tool that I know. The index fund is the one that lets you own all 500 of the S&P 500 stocks in one fund. Nobody manages it. You get them all. They take the money, they get it into the stocks, they do all of that, but they do nothing to make it better than another fund. They don't try to get rid of the bad companies and just have the good companies so they can make more money. They understand the academic research concludes that working hard to try to high grade and upgrade the portfolio to get rid of the bad companies and get more of the good companies, those people, believe it or not, make less money for investors. This is not something they're proud of, but it's the truth. Now, having said that, there's a small lie in there. If you look at the research, it's updated every 6 months. SPIVA is the report. They look at the returns of actively managed mutual funds versus passively managed funds. They look at track records from 1 year, 5, 10, 20. When you go out 20 years, then I'm not worried about 1 year for you. I'm worried about 20 or 40 or 60. If you go out 20 years, 1 in 10 of those actively managed funds does better than the index. 1 in 10. The problem is nobody knows how to pick that 1 in 10 ahead of time. And there's another terrible thing that the industry does not point out very often. And that is if you look at the distribution of returns for a whole bunch of mutual funds in a particular category, large companies, small companies, or whatever, they'll break it down by quartile. So they would show the top 25%, and they'll show you the return for the lowest earning fund of that 25%. Everything above that, everybody, like let's say that's 9.2%. Everybody in that 25% quartile is above 9.2%. Then the next quartile is 9.2 and -8.1. And the next quartile is 8.1 and 7.6, whatever it is. And then you have the top then of the bottom quartile, and nobody knows what the lowest number is unless you go look it up. But here's the problem. If you try to pick the actively managed fund that does better than the index fund that owns them all, you may end up owning one of those funds, not in the top 25%, not in the second 25, not in the third 25, but the lowest 25%. You could underperform the market for 20 years by 2 to 3% a year, trying to do the right thing. We understand what you're trying to do. And I'm not saying that somebody doesn't win lotteries. They do. But the odds are not in your favor. So from my viewpoint, index funds, which have very low expenses, and let's go forward to the next one. That's the passively managed funds, the index fund. They have more diversification. They have less turnover, less taxes. If you're in a taxable account, they are much more tax efficient, and they are likely to do better. Let's go on to number 7. I just want to make ever so quickly here to point out this. We talked about the 10.2. Large companies, some growth, some value. You'll read about it in the book for more details. Large value made of 8/10 more. Small blend, small growth, small value, 11.9%. And small value by itself, 13.2. They are all asset classes that you can buy and put into your portfolio. And we have all sorts of articles. In fact, I'll get to boot camp in a second. Yes. So I think I can make a case for having some small companies in your portfolio. Next one. I can make a case for having some value in your portfolio. Next one. I can make a case that you purely stay the course for the rest of your life. I'm going to tell you about a fund that is the best stay-the-course fund that's ever been built. But staying the course, not market timing, not jumping in and out. The greatest enemy of the investor is themselves. You are worse than high expenses. When I say you are, you can be. You also can be a disciplined investor and not jump in and out. And there are people like Jim Cramer on TV. They make a living getting people to jump in and out at some level. Jim Cramer has said many times that John Bogle and index funds are better than what I do. He says that all this jumping in and out, it's about fun. It's about a hobby. I do not play golf. And yet my friends who play golf 3, 4, some 5 times a week. I mean, they just love it. And I think, wow, God, how could I waste all that time? In fact, we once bought a home. My last and best wife, over 20 years. We pulled in on the Oregon coast. We had a friend who suggested we spend one night at a hotel in a place called Gearhart. Everybody been to Gearhart? Beautiful little spot. And we had never been to Gearhart. We'd gone to Cannon Beach for decades. And we drove into Gearhart to go to the hotel. And on the right-hand side, there is a golf course. And I'm kind of paying attention to the driver, but my wife yells out, "We got to buy a house here." I hate that when she does it. I said, "Why?" She said, "Look at those elk. They're on the golf course. They're eating the green." She said, "This is the best use of a golf course I've ever seen." And the next day we did. We bought a house there, had it for about 2 years, and we loved it, by the way. We loved Gearhart. Oh, wait a minute. I'm When you get out of the market, it is normally because you are afraid. You don't know the future. You will never know the future. I absolutely guarantee you will never know the future. And the problem is that we talk so confidently about the past. The market did this, the market did that. This fund went up over the last 10 years. As if that's statistically meaningful. It's not. 10 years means nothing. Well, it does if it's my money. Yeah, of course it does. We know how you feel about it. But that 10 years doesn't prove anything. 30 years doesn't prove anything. But what we do know is you cannot buy the past. And that's what people want to do. So one of the reasons that we look at 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 years worth of evidence is the hope that it shows us not only what the good times will look like, but what the bad times will look like. And from 2000 to 2009, that was that 10 years the market didn't do well. It made almost exactly the same return as from 1929 to 1938. These things, they happen over and over again. We've had a couple of years, 25% gains. 25% gains, that's not uncommon. That's why one of the things I hope you'll look at on our website are our quilt charts. You can actually see 4 different major U.S. equity asset classes, 1 year at a time, color-coded, large blend, small blend, large value, small value, and the combination of the 4. And you'll be able to just look at that page of all of those colorful years and see how many years you'll see the S&P 500 at the top and at the bottom, small cap value at the top and at the bottom. And you will see the whole thing has got to be random. I don't see any pattern here. There is no pattern because it's random. And you cannot we'll never have Nixon as president again. You'll never have the same series of events again to give us whatever the market does for us. But I want you to notice one thing. I want you to notice what happens to the 25% each in S&P, large cap value, small cap blend, and small cap value. I want you to see the volatility. It has the least volatility. It's never number 1. It's never the worst. It's somewhere in the middle. And yet, its compound rate of return is almost 2% better per year than the S&P 500. Now that's, to me, that's meaningful information. And you can look and you can make up your own meaningful information if you look at that quilt chart. But timing is looking for safety. wanting to feel good. It doesn't feel good to lose money. We lost money in 73 and then it happened again in 74. And then from 75 to 82, great market. As a matter of fact, from 1975 to 1999, the S&P 500 compounded at 17.2%. 25 years. I was an investor during that period of time. Making money was so easy. It felt. And in 1999, people were surveyed. What do you think the next 10 years is going to be like? The average was a gain of 20 to 30% a year instead of a loss of 1. That really happened. Why did they believe that? Well, because the market for the period from 1995 to 1999 compounded at over 28% a year. And people have this recency bias. And the returns after these severe market declines tend to be really good historically. Yes, please. Dollar cost average, you got $100 put in every month, like we talked for 54 years. You put your $100 in and the price of the stock is $10, the fund is $10. You get 10 shares for 100. Market goes down. Next month it's $5 a share. You put your 100 in, you get 20. When the market is down, it forces you to do the right thing. Buy more.
Let me ask you, Governor.
When the market is high, it forces you to do the right thing. In essence, don't chase performance. Don't be afraid of the market when it's down. I could say don't do that with an individual stock, because an individual stock can just go out of business. I mean, there are, 1,800 different cryptocurrencies? And young people have a lot of money in cryptocurrencies. Most of it is supposedly, from what I've been told, put into cryptocurrencies that are relatively unknown because they're looking for the next Bitcoin. They too want to win the lottery. Who doesn't want to win the lottery? I mean, we all want to win the lottery if we just had the numbers, right? I do have last week's numbers, but dollar cost averaging is a great way, a great discipline to accumulate. Number 11. I already said this. I want you to have taxes, minimum taxes. I believe, there's faith, that taxes, when you are my age, are more likely to be what they were when I was your age. When I went into the industry in 1966, the highest marginal tax rate that year was 70%. If you were a high earner, you paid a lot of money in taxes. The year before, it was 90%. Now, right now, it's, your taxes are hardly half of that. But I personally believe, because I think the deed is real, I think the IOUs are real, they will have to be paid someday. And the answer, and I guess I'm in the same choir, well, it'll be paid by the next generation, I'll be dead. Somebody else will take care of that. That's a terrible thing to say, but that's what we're doing. And it's not like we don't have people who could pay those taxes. So, is it possible taxes will be higher later in our lives? I think it's very probable taxes will be higher. Will it feel good to not have to pay any taxes on all of your income? Well, you may think that's un-American, but you will have prepaid your taxes because you did not get a refund on those Roth IRAs. They did not give you money back. You let them keep your money that you would have gotten back. And for that, the deal is they will let you grow it tax-free and access it tax-free. There is no better deal in the world that I know of, if they keep their word. Next, number 12. It's 7 o'clock almost. Let me just tell you about target date funds. Go ahead, turn it off. Please.
Oh, let me check.
Oh, well, don't turn it off. That's,
Okay, thank
that's, I'm
Just put it up
not,
there. I don't want to mess with it.
I'm not gonna go through I'm not gonna go through the rest of the slides because of what time it is. I want to tell you this last one because it's the most important one, but it is by far the simplest one that I have to tell you about. First mutual fund, big. Then index funds, huge. Then target date funds, amazing. It is the best, not perfect. I have no problem criticizing how it could be better. And in fact, in the book, the last half of the book is about target date funds. And you will see my recommendation on how you can, by just adding one simple fund, make it better from everything we know about the past. But here's what most of us want. Let me just ask for a show of hands. How many people would like to have a mutual fund that from the day you start investing until the day you die, literally did the right thing at all times for you as an investor? How many would like that? Okay, it is most of the room. Now, the implication is the rest of the room might not know yet or might want to handle those things themselves. They know enough to make the decisions. The fact is, the studies show we don't make very good decisions as a group when we're on our own. This fund, that is a one fund investment for life, is called a target date fund. And all it needs to know is that you are going to retire in 2070, 2065. They don't do it for every year. So you have to estimate 2060. 2030. And that fund is being managed with that knowledge in mind, with the right amount of stocks, the right amount of bonds, the right amount of large, the right amount of small, the right amount of US, the right amount of international. You don't have to do a thing for the rest of your life. Now, they are not all the same. Some of them are more aggressive. Some of them at my age would be 40% equity and 60% bonds. Some at my age will be 30% equity, 70% in bond. Not everyone is managed exactly the same. Just like not every pension with the big corporations are managed the same. But they're all managed prudently. And they're all controlled and are required to do this for you, just as if you had a pension at a corporation and they were paying you out for life.
We have to go to conference to play.
Oh, go
We have
ahead.
class.
I'm done talking.
We got the,
We got the drawing. Oh, my God, the drawing.
the teacher did the roundup on us, so.
They have another class. This is the end of the first class. Now they have another class.
Okay,
With a
go.
different teacher.
Thank you very much. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it. Thank you.
We want to do that drawing?
Yeah.
So we can catch that.
Can we do it real quick?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's do it.
Okay, we used a random number generator.
Oh,
Is
nice.
Justin Hannah here?
Justin,
No, Justin
Hannah?
Hannah?
Justin Hannah, could Justin be on?
Nope, I already marked everyone online.
So, not everyone was able to get in.
What?
Well,
Just so that's what I'm saying.
I think we have to go with
Okay.
what we've got.
Okay.
So Frank Portello is our secretary.
Invest it wisely.
Good luck.
Thank you, I'll email you.
Good, thank you.
Thanks to all of you for able to come tonight. Thanks to accepting.
Here, so.
I just want to finish up on the drawing.
Okay.
Another class to get you ready.
No.
It is truly one portfolio for life.
Hey, how are you?
And I'll tell you this, they did a study at 1.2 million clients at Vanguard who had 401k plans. They looked at 1.2 million. They looked at plans that had no target date funds, who were doing it themselves. And then they looked at people who had all the money in target date funds. A 2.3% advantage, better rate of return, the way the portfolios are built for those that didn't hop around, that didn't get out trying to market time or were afraid to get in the first place. So all I know is from at least one relatively big study that the odds are that for most people, now, in one of those books that is free, that I didn't talk about this, we have 3 free books. One is called Spending Your Way to Wealth. And in the back of that book, the author was able to print a 16-page listing of the biases that are found written up in a book called Thinking Fast and Slow. It's a 500-page book that nobody has ever finished. It's half of it's heavy research, the other half is fascinating. But the bottom line is this. We do struggle with a lot of biases. Home bias, recency bias, overconfidence. We all know about how everybody thinks they're better than average driver. And these kinds of things that people, we think we know more than we know. And all of these biases, I believe there are 48 of them are in that list of what they are. And then in the book, Paul Hayes, one of our directors, in the book, he talks about the ways you try to fight those biases. But there is no question, to try to do the right thing for a lifetime. It's hard to find anybody who actually made an investment and stayed the course. And yet people would say, gee, I wish I'd put my money into Microsoft when it came out. But would you have sold it when it went up 3 times its value after it, and get that profit and run and look for something else that might be another Microsoft? So the question is, how do we stay the course? And therein lies what we're all trying to figure out. And what I am going to be doing this next year, I hope you will subscribe to our newsletter. I know I can't do this much longer, just age-wise. And yet I want to leave strategies for you that I think for those that want to do something more than a target date fund. And by the way, the 3rd book that's free is called 2 Funds for Life. That's written by another one of our directors, and it's all about a target date fund and small cap value. And he's the one that created the portfolio. He's an engineer. In fact, he retired from NVIDIA and works hundreds of hours, all volunteer army. And he's just done some amazing work. But, you should read that book too, 2 Funds for Life. Then Paul's book on the psychological, and hopefully with this free book you got here tonight, you'll find that helpful as a reminder of what we talked about. And then email me, test me. I did not talk tonight about AI. I think AI is an amazing resource. I think you may want to limit AI on what it uses as the basis of the kinds of advice you're going to get. We have on our website called the Truth Tellers. We have, I think it's 12, maybe 14 people that we trust, the work that they do. We don't get a penny from all of them for being in our list of Truth Tellers. 2 of them have died since we started the process, but we leave them on there because their work is still going to be on the internet. And we have got a strategy we're working on to help people do better. We don't want them to take more risk, and we're not trying to get people to take more risk. We're trying to get people to have a better diversification that's likely to give you a premium over time. But in there will also be the names of the mutual funds we think you should be using. So I wish you well. I now have my wife to take to dinner. With her time of the day.
So Paul.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming.